Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Bridging Divides podcast. I am super excited to talk to you guys today. We're going to talk about loss, triumph, struggles, love, how we can overcome these things by coming together as community and family and friends. Super excited to bring you our guest, Tiffney Houston, here today. She is just a ball of light and sunshine. Every time I am in the same room as her, it just makes me feel happy.
Oh,
So,
that's nice.
super excited to bring you here today.
Yay! I'm excited to be here.
So Tiffney is the owner of our
Health and
company,
Healing Studios.
Health and Healing Studios, and they do a number of different things. Oh my gosh.
We're a one-stop shop for your health needs. So we opened up in October of 2020, and I opened because as a personal trainer, I never closed during COVID. I actually covered up my windows. I had the police called on me 3 times because no one was thinking about the mental aspect of that, where the worst punishment you can have in jail is
Solitary.
isolation.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That's wild, right?
And what did we do to everyone during COVID? And what were people like? You're lucky you have a wife and kids, right? So
Right,
your
yeah. So we
isolation
had
was
a-
filled with people. I train a lot of the more mature population. So I have a lot of clients who are widows. And then I had a lot of single people. And I would be the only person that they would see. Not only does working out boost your immune system, which is a plus, but it's that community factor which helps boost your immune system as well, and also that loneliness factor.
Oh,
So
100%. The community that you build
yes.
around that, so important.
very important. So at the time I had a business called Sunshine Fit Training. So I got really lucky where I was able to get a space, and I have a naturopathic doctor who's a really close friend, and I asked her if we could use her license to make this a medical center, a holistic medical center, and she rented space from me. And then that's how this was created, because I needed to be an essential business to be able to help people, because if we're going to help, and it's called health and healing, because we want to improve people's health, but heal you in the process of improving your health. So looking at your whole body, your whole physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body, because it all goes together.
100%.
And that is what the space is.
This lady, am I right? Like, oh my gosh. Seriously. And what I love hearing too is that it's like, okay, you didn't necessarily have like a medical license, right? And so instead of just going, oh, well, that sucks. Like, that's the end of that dream or goal. You go, okay, well, how are we going to make this work, right? Like, I always love the stories of people that it's like they find a challenge, and then instead of just throwing their hands up, they go, okay, well, how are we going to learn from it? How are we going to overcome it? You know, in some cases, how are we going to use it as a stepping stone, for kind of the next thing, and so I love that story in general, hearing about your business story. And we talk about entrepreneur stuff a lot, which you're familiar with on this channel. But I love also your personal journey as we've gotten to know each other through BNI, which you guys know I meet so many people that way. And just a quick shout out.
It's a cult.
Yeah.
It is a cult.
Yeah. I'm Mormon, so I was already halfway there. But no, that being said, it's like, it was so great though. Just a shout out to the BNI organization. It's a referral group, right? So it's a ton of business owners come together, but the ideals that they have for the way to do business through relationship building is really what drew me to it. Because I was like, okay, like, we're people, right? Whether you're the CEO or a business owner of this huge studio, or you have a bunch of people, different people working together, we're all people. We all go through things. And I mean, our struggles and our trials cross economic boundaries, racial, religious, like all types of boundaries that we can be able to come together and bond over and grow together. It's what I just absolutely love about that. But so let's talk. So tell us a little bit about your story, about you. Kind of, we had mentioned when we have talked in the past, you've mentioned some of the trials and the struggles that you've overcome to be where you're at today. This happy, healing person. Really, that's a perfect way to describe you.
Yeah, so not always happy. So that's the number one thing that I love to point out, because people assume that when you present this way and that you always seem, they're like, oh my God, you're just probably always happy.
That was
definitely,
me.
Definitely not. Definitely. But it's the thing of changing and choosing, right? So it is, which it's hard when people are like depressed and stuff. They're like, well, for you to say it's just a choice. It is. You like wake up every day and you choose how you're going to feel and how you're going to start off your day.
Yeah.
So like, where do you want me to start with the story? Like when I was a little girl.
So actually, so to let's just play off of that, or let's go from there, because you said something that really kind of really stood out to me. Of, oh, since you're this bubbly person, you must just be happy all the time. And so that was what I grew up kind of like. That's how I saw myself, right? But when I started going through depression and it got dark and scary, and I had my experience with suicide and all this other stuff, and I just went, who is this person that is in the driver's seat of my life right now? Because it's not me, right? And so it really opened my eyes to not just assume that everything
happy.
is okay with everybody's life just because they're smiling, right?
Yeah.
So can you go into that a little bit more, if you can, of kind of how, even though you might be smiling on the outside in front of everybody, what are some of the things that that have been going on just kind of personally?
So like for a big one, so I have had 4 losses for a baby, and that's like the big thing that I want. I've had 2 miscarriages and then 2 ectopic pregnancies. So that is probably like one of my largest struggles that I go through right now.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Can you tell us what ectopic
I know. I
pregnancies
realized
are?
that people don't know what that
Yeah,
is because
I've
you
never
wouldn't
heard of
know
that.
unless you've
You've
had
gone
it.
through it.
So an ectopic pregnancy is when the cell, because it's not quite a fetus yet, the cell either goes and it latches onto the tube or
I
it
have
latches
heard of
onto
that.
the ovary
Right.
instead of the uterus.
Right.
And with that, if you don't find it in enough time, it will continue to grow and then it will burst and you'll
Because
internally...
it's a baby.
It's a baby. You'll internally bleed and you will die. So if it burst, even like I had a friend who had one, she was literally in the emergency room and they're like, if you move the wrong way and it bursts, while they're getting her ready for surgery, it still wouldn't be enough time for them to save her life.
It's that fast.
Yes, it can be very fast. Yeah,
How
because you internally
scary.
bleed depending on where it is and where it bursts. So like the first one that I had, we were going to the ultrasound to see what we're gonna have. Found out it was an ectopic and I had to go straight to the hospital. This last one, since my history, I am very diligent with like I was pregnant and I was like, this is weird because I got my period and I was like, it shouldn't be right now. But I made sure that they wanted to book me out like 3 weeks later to go get an ultrasound. I was like, no, have you seen my history? Like I need to go like now.
Right.
And I went and then it was in my tube. And so you can either have emergency surgery or if you get it enough time, they can give you a chemotherapy drug called methotrexate.
That just hurts, man.
That does hurt, but for me, it's like a catch-22. So my dad passed away from cancer just last year. Yeah, so I had that too. I had
sorry.
ectopic, and then my dad passed.
Just like piling up.
Boom, 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 right? But the one thing with the methotrexate is it made me understand more of how my dad felt with chemo. Which my biggest thing is if anyone has a family member who has cancer, do not force them to do anything. Let them do it their way and how they want to. Because until you get chemotherapy, don't ask anyone else to take it.
Because you don't understand.
Oh, because it sucks. That sucks. And it does not feel good. And it sucks so bad.
I've had friends and family that have gone through that.
Yeah.
It's just like seeing them suffer. I'm just like...
It's intense. So, that is one thing where, and actually while we're talking about this, I've been tested with this place a lot where it literally is created to help people improve their health and heal them in the process. And it has worked with me, like using my space, and I'm blessed that I created a community of people around me so that I can talk about when I have those really depressive times and those thoughts, and then we can go through it. And like right now we're doing the book Human Design, and then different books that we can talk about that we can read to, and acknowledge when you feel that way. Like acknowledge when you are feeling depressed, when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling like I cannot get out of this. That the big thing is to be able to have people that you can talk about and be safe talking about it. But also a big thing I do use plant medicine a lot. So I've done ayahuasca and mushrooms. Ayahuasca is what helps like a ton. So a whole lot made it a whole lot easier.
So just a little tangent here. The more that I have learned about those types of therapies, the more I've just been like, you know what? Like, I totally see how that can be beneficial. Not abused, right? Like there are definitely people that abused. I mean, they abuse morphine and fentanyl and all these other things that have been used for horrible things, but that can also help people. Why can't we use the plants that we've been given?
That have been here forever and that's been used for centuries. So many people want to use pharmaceuticals. And
I even say millennia, even.
Yeah,
like,
it's been
forever.
here forever. Like, and it's been used forever, and we know the long-term effects of that compared to the pharmaceuticals that can just make you feel numb, right? And I don't need to feel numb. I need to go through the feeling. I need to go through it so I can on the other side. Absolutely.
100%. If you guys are more interested in those types of therapies to deal with depression and healing, let us know, because that's definitely an interest of mine. So if you want us to go into that, then we definitely can. So we'll have to.
Oh my gosh, I can go into it.
We will have to talk about that on a whole other podcast. But so you had kind of mentioned going through those things, having them stack on top of one another. I mean, it's difficult because so my wife and we have 6 kids, right? And so but we've had 2 miscarriages along the way. And I remember the first pregnancy that we ever had, that was something that we did. And the workplace that I was in there was like zero sensitivity with that. And I was like, hey, like my wife is distraught because she just found out, like, can I go home for the rest of the day? So whatever, my boss had kind of worked it out with her boss, and the next day her boss had brought me in, and she was like, I'm not surprised that was you. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like essentially like saying that I was using that as an excuse just to get out of work. And here I am, like my wife and I are just like crying like crazy because we want to have a family, and so it's just like, oh my gosh, like that hurts, right? Really kind of opened my eyes to being able to have a community, like you were saying, around you to be able to help you get through that. So who has been that for you, and how have those relationships helped you get through those struggles?
So I am really lucky. We create the life that we have, right? So like the energy and vibration that you give out is what you get back.
100%.
Most of the time my vibration is very awesome. Like I will say, like a lot of people say, oh, like you light up. I'm blessed with the parents I grew up with. Like I'd say I'm a naturally happy person. So
I love that you have that too. I mean,
yes, I'm super lucky with that, right? But like I did a lot of work on myself as a kid because I was a very overweight child and people didn't really like me. So I spent a lot of time with myself. So I really got to know who I was and the type of life that I wanted to create. And at a young age, I knew that you create your own life. So actually, like literally all of my clients, like I'm so blessed. Like, I don't know if you heard the client who was just out there before I came here. She was her job, and I was like, God, every time you talk, I do not ever want to go back to corporate. But I've surrounded myself with, like, all clients aren't good clients. So now I'm at a space where there's people I've had to drop as clients, and literally I had one where I told her there's a certain vibe in this place and you just do not match that vibe, because she was like, this I don't have any clients like that. And to me, money is not, she was the type who's like, I pay you a service, so you have to take this attitude and stuff. And I was like,
no, I don't.
No, I work for myself, so I don't have to do that.
I love that.
So my community really it's my staff and my clients. Like, they know when I'm going through it, and I'm very blessed with, I'm surrounded by amazing people all the time. All the males I'm surrounded with are very secure men who they don't have that toxic masculinity, and all the females I'm surrounded with are very positive people. So it really is, my staff helps me a ton, and my my clients as well as my family. But I would say my staff, like, a ton. But then also when you give off that energy, there's certain people in BNI who didn't know, but then other ones did know. So I created that when I went to BNI. I found, like, my little circle, because, like, Dr. Spencer and Kaylee, they knew. So
beautiful.
Like, I had that. Great. Yeah. So I've realized I kind of create that wherever I go, which you do because if you're on a higher vibration, people can only match with you if they're at that vibration too. So
That's
that's
interesting. So
why
you attract
you attract
essentially
what you
what
do.
you put
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Because as the things were piling on, like I had the ectopic, then I lost my dad. I'm blessed where then I could go do the plant medicine so I could get back at my vibration and keep it going. Because if you stay in it, whatever you think about, you're just gonna get more of. So if you stay in that negative
It totally
mindset,
makes sense.
negative stuff is going to come. And the thing is, even if a positive thing came to you, you wouldn't look at it as positive because you're in this negative mindset. So it could be
See,
right in
that's
front of you and you're just like, that's not how I wanted it to come.
because you're seeing through a different lens, right? And so you don't see that. And you find that same principle in nature all over the place, right? Like what happens with stagnant water? It gets more and more like rotten and nasty and festered and just disgusting, and it just keeps attracting more and more and more until you cleanse it, you purge it, and you get moving and let it flow. Exactly. I love that. One of the darkest times in my life was when I was on the ship, when I was stationed in Washington, and we went underway. I was away from my family, right? Very isolated in that way. But I had some of the darkest moments, but I also had some of the coolest experiences because of certain people in that moment that were that light for me, right? And were able to help me get through that. So you can have all the junk going on around you and find a way to not let it affect you, right?
Yeah, or
And
it makes you have to grow, right? So, like
yeah,
for me,
exactly.
as being an overweight teen, it made life like really hard. Like no one found me attractive. I didn't have like my first real date till I was 19. Da 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 da. But that made me really have to dig deep, and I spent so much time with myself that as a young adult, I was very confident with who I was because I always knew people liked me for me. They didn't look like me for the exterior, so they liked me for me. But then through that, that's where I found fitness and eating right, which to be honest, it was the biggest blessing. So that dark part of my life was the hugest blessing for me now because I always eat healthy and have to move. But really, that's why people, I'm 35, they start feeling like, oh, my body's breaking down at 35. I'm like, no, you got to move and eat right for the rest of your life. But I had to create those habits at a young age that is really going to make you live a better life. So really our darkest points are what make us the best. Like you're not going to grow from everything going amazing, you know? And that is life. It's like cycles. Like sometimes it is really, really low, but you'll always know when you get that low, you're going to get that high coming back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing with people with depression which I get where we have, and we do so much of titles like I have chronic depression. Okay, well, yes, I think a lot of people can. And it's just like, what are the things how can you learn from that thing that really was horrible in your life to make you better, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how can you learn from that?
Yeah.
Or what can you gain from that? And it should make you have to adapt to be a better person, a better you.
Yeah. I was talking with Lindsay Taylor. She's the clinical director of the Hope Institute here in Arizona, which we're going to actually have her on in a few weeks. So you'll hear all about her, and she's just amazing. But she was talking about how the majority of people that they see for suicide treatment, essentially, is what they do. Most can get through their program, 6 to 12 weeks of sessions and different things like that. Most people, once they get through the other side and they make some changes, can essentially kind of have that be a part of their past and not something that they're constantly going through. You know, it's like with me, it's like I have kind of flare-ups, you could call them, where it's like, man, like this is really hard, and you know, I'm not suicidal like I was before. But it's something that you kind of go back to those habits that you've developed in that moment, right? Like a tree, for example, just to kind of piggyback off of your point, doesn't become strong by having all the water and zero struggles that it goes through. It becomes strong when water is hard to reach and when the wind is blowing like crazy, you know?
Or it's super hot outside.
If you ever tried to take a tree out, I don't know if you guys have, but like those trees, good luck, because those roots are deep and they are strong, right?
Oh, I like that analogy.
It's a good one. I've heard that. And then on the flip side, I don't know if you've ever seen anything that's been put into a crook of the tree and it will grow over it. Like a
Oh,
wedge, right? And there's this farmer or whatever that talks about how he put a wedge in the tree and for 10, 15 years or whatever, it grew over it. So from the outside, you never would know. But then this big storm came, and because it was weak there on the inside, it was dead. It was done. Just totally split apart when this big storm came through. And so it's like, by that, using that same metaphor, it's like when we have those things on the inside that we don't deal with and that we don't learn to let go and get rid of, later on down the road, you might be like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Everybody sees everything as great on the outside, but you won't be able to weather the storms that come later, right?
absolutely.
And so how have the storms that you've been in before made the ones coming later more easy to withstand for you?
So remembering the things that got me out of that storm. So like for one, I'm like a self-help freak, but I realized
too.
that
Hands down.
when I was really sad this past go around, I was listening to like fiction books, which I never do that, instead of like my self-help all the time. So
Yeah.
that's like one for me is I know that I need to listen to more self-help and surround myself with positive things, and meditation is a huge
Ooh,
one.
that's a big one for me.
Massive, because when I got this space, so like in if you would have told me in May of 2020 that I would have had a space, I got my keys in August of 2020, I would have laughed in your face. There's no way. But starting in March of 2020, I started meditating every day, like constantly, and then by May, like things were just flowing like crazy.
It's almost like you tap into like the flow of the universe.
It is.
Forever like hippie that might sound for some of us, but like
It is.
It's crazy.
That you tap into it because you're able to be still. And then things can come to you and you can actually see the positive things coming to you and take them. So
Ooh,
the
that's a
things
big
that
one,
got
being
me
able to see
it and take it in. So like meditation, self-help books, but me remembering what helped me get out of stuff before and knowing that this is just a cycle of life. Like it is, it's just, I mean, this is, and I'm lucky I train a lot of the mature population. So like this morning, I love to ask people, how would you describe life in one word? So one of my clients who has been through everything, like she was molested as a kid, tried to get emancipated, and the judge literally said, "What were you wearing?" Because this was in the 70s. What were you wearing as a little 15-year-old?
As if it's your fault.
As a little 15-year-old, and then she has a son who's 36 but has the mindset of a 2-year-old, autistic, and takes care of him and all this stuff. And I was like, how, like, she has had such a hard life. But how would you describe it? And she's like, interesting. And life is what you make of it. But then she has all these amazing, great stories. And she was like, if you sit in the poo, you're just going to get more of it, which is so true. So I'm lucky with being surrounded by a bunch of older people. And I ask them all the time, and literally that is life. Like if you live a good life, you have a ton of ups and downs. That is a good life.
That you've lived.
Because you lived and you felt like you have feelings, emotions. Like that's what we came here for, was to experience something.
100%.
Not for everything just to go your way, right?
Right.
Like,
No, 100%. I believe that we've been put into this life to learn, and you don't learn anything by staying where you're at. No, 100%. And one of the things that you said about emotion, right? About how emotions for me, or let me back up here. Watch some videos where they talk about being able to take emotion out of how you live your life. It's like you won't be taken advantage of, and people won't be able to do this to you and this to you, and it's like this place of security. And I was like, I mean, I hear what they're saying,
but that does not.
but I was like, something doesn't add up here. Like, you talk about the numbness, right? But it's like, the way that I was looking, I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, emotion is fuel. Emotion is how we connect with each other on that deeper spiritual level. It doesn't matter if it's business, if it's relationships, if it's romantic, if it's platonic, whatever it is. Those emotions are what drive our life. So a life without emotion is a life that's not lived.
Not at all. And the thing is, like, you have to know who can take your knowing how to keep your emotions, not like hold it in on yourself, but don't let yourself be influenced by everyone else so much, right? So knowing when
So
you're being influenced by the
yeah,
energies that are around you, and maybe knowing like, hey, this is not the energy I want to be around.
right.
So let me go to something else. Ooh, I do like this energy. But yeah, when they say that like, oh, don't care at all and just go through and power through,
Like, no,
that does
no
not
thanks.
work for
No,
people
leads to
at all.
burnout. It leads to all the mental health issues that we're talking about.
Ding, ding,
right?
ding. And what you think, then you think you don't have them. Because then people are like, oh, yes, maybe. Is that what that is? And it's like,
And it's just like,
yeah.
yeah, you know, that mental breakdown that you had,
just a
maybe
little
you should have shared a little bit about what you were going through.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
I know,
just a
right?
tiny bit.
And so it's like, not to say that there is not benefit from being able to keep your emotions regulated.
Absolutely.
Right, that's very important. We had a previous guest on, Jacob Sparks, amazing, talking about how the brain can regulate, right? And when the emotions are all in control, we get disconnected from the logic center. But instead of just going, okay, well, then let's remove emotion, he's like, no, that's not the way. You have to regulate. I say this because he did some hand model that explains the different parts of the brain connecting. But like, it's not get rid of the emotions, it's learn how to regulate them. Just like you can have too much fuel, you can have too little and you won't go anywhere, right? You put too much on, it explodes, and then nobody's happy with that point. We can do the same thing with us. Those emotions that we feel, the difficult things that we go through them. One of my favorite phrases is, when you're going through hell, keep going, because you will get through it, and you will grow from what you grow through. Grow through what you go through. Oh, it's super articulate here.
To let it out. So as a
Let
body
it go.
worker, that's one thing. So people get, when you can't deal with your emotions. So there's the book, The Body Keeps Score. When
I've
you
heard of
can't,
that one.
yeah, when you can't deal with your emotions, it shoots out in your body. So people are like, God, my low back always hurts. That's with your root chakra. That's meaning your foundation. If your hips hurt a lot,
I've
means that,
I've read a bit about that.
yeah, that means you have the fear of moving forward. But if you've ever read anything on Jose Silva, so they did a whole study on people with cancer, and my dad passed from cancer, so I believe this thing 100%. So we all have cancer cells in us. It's just a cell that mutates and goes crazy. That they showed that 6 to 18 months before they got the diagnosis, something drastic happened in their life. So like my dad, he was a vice president at Nationwide. The first time he got diagnosed with cancer was the first time he had to lay off 1,200 people.
So he was at the top here, and just had.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
1,200
I think
people.
I missed that. He had to lay off
1,200 people, and that was the first time when he got his diagnosis. Wow. So, and for some people, it matters on the person you are. My dad was a very sensitive type of person. So if you don't deal with your emotions, and if you think, oh, this is just fine, your body literally always keeps score. Like,
it really does.
Definitely does.
And it's like when people are like, oh, well, depression's just in your head. And you go,
well,
yeah,
but my
so
head
is a tumor.
Yeah, but my head controls my body.
Exactly.
Everything is controlled by your head. So you're right, it is in my head, our head is our biggest source. Your brain creates your life. Our head is the most important thing. So yeah, you're right in my head, but my head is the most important thing that's creating everything else for me.
100%. And just it's fascinating to me how that plays in our lives. In the physical, and I'm a firm believer that the physical, the spiritual, or emotional, whatever you want to call it,
both spiritual, emotional, mental,
they are all part of the same whole, and they all affect the other. A firm believer in that, and whatever labels that people put on it. And I'm obviously very involved in my religion and everything like that, but whatever label that people put on these things, you can't. I feel like you can't argue with that fact. Whether you're purely secular, looking at the brain and emotions and how they affect your physical health, or kind of the more spiritual side that we're talking about, they're connected, like 100%.
Absolutely.
Right. And just so I absolutely love that. But so you talked about getting out of, I guess, the darkness through surrounding yourself with good people and learning in the moment of those of those experiences, right? You don't always have to say, well, once I get out of this, then I'll be okay, right? So how were you able to make the decision in the middle of what you were going through to say, no, I'm not going to let this break me down. I'm going to make a choice to learn here. Because that's hard.
Yeah, it is. So you have to know, I said the self-help book and stuff like that, but what is something that makes you happy? For me, I'm very lucky. Like working out makes me super happy. Like in taking workout classes and doing yoga. And I realized, oh my God, and a very consistent schedule of that, I wasn't doing that. So I started that again. And that one thing then led to the next because then I felt better. I'd feel better because you get that little high after you work out. So then I feel better. Then you want to make better decisions for yourself. And then it creates a snowball effect. So I would say starting with like one thing that you know that can get you out of it. And for me, I know that if I'm not being active, that I need to be active and create some type of schedule. And then your diet plays a big role on your mental too. So when I
your
am
gut
really
health.
sad, oh my gosh, yeah,
Everything
right.
that goes into your brain that it's made up of is what you put in. So anyway, keep
So
going.
then if I'm down, then I'm not eating the way that I should be eating. So then when I go back to eating right, then my brain can start to feel better. But I'm lucky that, so being a business owner, you really do see. So when I am down, I'll get a bunch of cancellations.
Yeah,
All the time because your vibration, right?
interesting.
Like when you work a corporate job, you can feel like poop and still going to work. They still pay you if you just have. But me,
But you can't do that as when you're at the top.
when you own your own business,
It
like
doesn't
your
work.
emotions, it all plays into it. So business will start to suffer. So that now is a big thing that will help pull me out because I do want to keep this space. I do love everyone that's here and I do love everyone that we help. And I'm lucky that with what I do, I hear multiple times throughout the day. I get told that people love me all the time, so I'm very lucky for that. And then that people are very grateful for the space that I've created. So I'm super grateful for that. And then the people who work here, I have people who they have their own business here and they're growing their business and they're always saying how much they love where they work.
And how beautiful is that too? That it's not, and again, referencing one of the previous episodes we had, it was with the Matt Haban, junk removal guy. And if you think there's nothing to learn from a junk removal guy, then go watch that episode because he's awesome. But he talks about collaboration over competition. So why turn people away? Because like, oh, no, I don't want you encroaching on my space. It's like, no. Come into my space and let's work together. Let's grow together. Let's create something together that's bigger than the sum of each of us apart. Right? It's this amazing compounding effect that happens when we work together, that we're worth way more together than we are separate. Like it's incredible.
And then creating connections for other people because right now there's people out there making videos too. And it's a friend who used to rent space from me here. And then one of my staff members who started doing social media for people. And I'm like, yeah, you can use the space because that's why I created it. Like the space is, and she wants to come here because it's a beautiful space to be able to be used. So, I think it's creating my life and creating things in my life that makes it so that I can't stay in the gutter for too long. And then making sure that you do have a good support system. I'm very blessed with the husband I have too. So like when I go home, I don't go home to like a stressful space. I go home to like, so how are you feeling today? Well, let's talk about it. Blah, 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 blah. So, but you create that. So,
you
do.
Like
if you're in a toxic relationship, you should probably get your ass out. It'd be a lot better to be by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
totally.
So much better because
100%.
it's like you feel bad and then you go home and it's bad. And it's like, then how are you ever going to get out of it?
It's the cycle that you go through.
And then that's just showing. So, people will only treat you as bad as you treat yourself. So when people are in a really horrible relationship, I'm like, God, how do you talk to yourself? Because those relationships, I'm like, I could never be in that because I could never let anyone be like that to me because I'm not that mean to me.
Beautiful.
So it starts with you. How mean are you to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? I had one client where she would talk so bad to herself. And I made her stop. I was like, God, you make me want to lose my mind. Is this how you talk to yourself? No wonder your life sucks. Oh my God. And people don't get that. Like it starts with you and how you talk to yourself.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And it's like, not to say that there aren't issues that are real, right? Like there are, I mean, we could go on and on, which we have.
Yeah,
We've
I had
talked
an
about,
ectopic. My dad died. I'm
it's
like,
like we've
yeah,
talked about all these things,
stuff,
whether
bad
it's
stuff happens all the time.
right. But are you going to let somebody else exercise power over your life, or are you, right? We can either act or be acted upon.
Absolutely.
So if you don't make your life what it is, somebody else will make it what it is.
All day.
And no thank you. I want to live my life. I don't
Yeah,
want somebody else
live
living it
my
for me.
life.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, oh my gosh. Like I said, we could totally go on and on and on. As we land the plane here, just kind of come to the end of our episode. Can you tell our audience, the people that are watching this, what would be one of the big takeaways? I know there's a lot, but one of the biggest pieces of advice for somebody that is in that gutter, in that darkness, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to download the app Calm because
I've heard
meditation
of
is a huge one. You do Insight Timer too. I really liked Calm because another time when I like lost it when I first started my training business, I only had like 10 clients in the same week. 3 clients said they weren't going to train anymore when they're supposed to give me like a 30-day notice. They told me the last day they were giving me a check. And I like lost my mind and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna download this app because it is for beginners. So if you think like, well, I don't know what meditation is, they talk to you in the background the whole time. You just gotta lay
awesome.
there and close your eyes. When they have the silent moments, they literally check in and say, so your mind probably wandered and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because your mind still wanders during meditation. But I
That
would
was a
say
big thing I had to learn.
yes,
Was like, look, dude, you don't have to turn your mind
off.
Like, let yourself think what you think, feel what you feel, and then just
And if it goes
going.
blank just for like 5 seconds out of a 15-minute meditation, that's a win, right?
Yeah.
And then to go outside and walk outside. But to go for a 20-minute walk every day and then to do a 10-minute meditation every day. And that alone will do so much.
100%.
And if you're in a toxic relationship, you just gotta get out of it. Like you just got to get out of it because that,
Get your butt out.
it doesn't matter. I don't care how much you meditate. I don't care what you do. If you are around toxicity, and especially in your personal life, because I understand if it's at work, you have to overcome that sometimes, right? Or you can start to change your vibration, and then maybe that person just leaves, or you just leave. Yeah. But in your personal life, you have complete control over that. So if you're in a toxic relationship, you have to get out. If that's one thing that's making you sad and depressed, but I would definitely say meditation, and then to walk outside, getting back to where we started with earth, right? And then the sun, like we need vitamin D and that does help a lot. But those would be the 2 things that I would say off the bat that anyone can do. And you can do Calm, it's free. The app, it's free. So you can do it for free.
Awesome.
You don't have to pay for it. But I would say to download the Calm app, and I don't get paid by Calm. But the Calm app was one I loved a lot, and then to walk outside. And then surround yourself. Then there's a whole list, right? But those are 2 things that you can start with.
Big ones.
Huge ones when you're feeling, because yeah, I totally get it. Like those suicidal thoughts. And then I love to work on people who have anxiety because I have extreme anxiety. So where we can just joke about it and be like, oh yeah, you just thought that I'll just drive this car off this cliff, But people feel that way. Can joke about it because it's true. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'm like, I can't wait until I get a baby to stick in here. And people are like, what? And it's like, it's the truth. And I mean, it's life. We are meant to have a good time. I think we all take things so seriously.
100%. Oh my gosh.
So heavy.
How offended people get or how they let the one little thing derail
everything.
All of the good things that are in their life, So, oh my gosh, we're definitely going to have another conversation in the future. I just know it. But if you guys have gotten value from this, because I know that I definitely have, please like the video, comment with what you have loved. Tiffney, we've just loved having you. And guys, I took so many different notes here, so I hope that you did. Just remember that you do grow through what you go through. And if you're in that darkness, in that gutter, let yourself feel what you feel.
Feel your feels.
But don't keep it. Let it go after you've felt it. And don't let anybody treat you less than the amazing, awesome person that you are. And I'm not talking like going around throwing punches at anybody that looks at you funny, but just let them go. You don't need them, and you can just move on and live your awesome, amazing, happy, beautiful life. I love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.